But we don't want to make this man wait because, he's just one of our favorite human beings on the face of the planet. It was great to see him back in town this weekend celebrating with Chris Davis. Always a pleasure to spend a couple of minutes with former Orioles manager, the great Buck Showalter, back with us now here on GCR. Buck, it's Glenn. Good morning, sir. Thank you for taking the time for us, as always. Oh, Buck, we got you. Do you hear us all right? Did he freeze up? Oh, man. All right.
Perfect time.
Of course.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Stuck the landing there. I promise we're going to get the Buck Showalter. That's going to happen. Buck, do you hear me okay? Oh, you're on mute, Buck. We got to get you off mute. It's all right. These things happen. Best laid plans of mice and men. We'll figure it out. Buck Showalter. Buck Showalter versus technology. It's going to be the next show that we do.
Buck, I think you're on mute if you're able to unmute yourself. There we go.
Let's see if we can't get Buck in here. Oh, man. I appreciate it. The effort that's going into this. I love Buck. Hey, Buck Showalter.
We are cooking with grease, man.
Man.
Did you expect anything else?
Did not expect anything at all. For you, we'll wait an eternity. That's a promise, my friend.
I guarantee you, when Griffin saw the AOL email address, he went, come on. It works. All I look for is to send it and receive.
Hey, man, I am very...
I don't need any of the bells and whistles.
Functionality, that's all I ask for as well. People always ask me about the cars I drive. I say, does it get me where I need to go? That's literally the only thing that I am concerned with. That's it.
I want one of those old pickup trucks. I'm talking about back in the 40s and 50s.
Ooh.
My wife wants to put it up on the hill and put a Christmas tree in the back of it,
But you want to just drive it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
How many people you think in your listening audience know how to drive a standard shift, Glenn?
Can I? I am in the company of the people that this is such an embarrassing sentence I'm about to say. My late father-in-law's wife, his wife, attempted to teach me how to drive a stick because he found out late in his life that I did not know how to drive a stick. And I had a great relationship with my late father-in-law, man. One of the greatest men I've ever known. We were very close. And the shame that he felt in figuring out that I didn't know how to drive a stick, he said, we're going to have to fix that. And when he passed away, his wife wanted to continue that. I can't do it, Buck. I cannot do it. Stalled out.
Mine was 3 in the tree, 3 on the column. Then you had 4 in the floor. I learned how to drive mine with the drag for our infield that was all skin. And we used to had a long plank with spikes down in it, and I would drive the pickup truck around in circles to drag the field. Okay, we're done.
No, wait a second. That's probably a better way to teach someone how to drive stick than it is to do it when I stalled out in the middle of a major road. That wasn't a great thing to have happen in that.
Well, there was a cemetery behind me too. I got to go make a couple of loops there.
That's helpful. That's probably where I should have gone.
But I still had some issues.
There might have been a few people that were visiting someone in the cemetery that were a little confused.
Glenn, I grew up when clutch meant something else. Now they don't have clutch hitters. A clutch was something you push so you could shift gears.
I understand. Buck, I got so much. First of all, it was great to have you back in town this weekend. And I know we've talked about Chris a lot, but I would say just the whole group of you. And now you guys have been able to do this a couple of times with those players from 2012 to 2016. I know it's not winning a World Series and the reunions that come from that, but knowing how special it was, what you guys did here, when you all get back together, and Zach and Adam and Brad and Darren, and what does that mean to you to reflect on those moments?
My wife and I were talking about it on the way home, and you'd like to think that happens, but it doesn't. Now you got to have some success, some form of success for it to really bond. But I think a lot of organizations miss what happens when you keep a group together and they grow together. The Scotes, the Machados, the Adam Jones. I mean, he was a young guy when I got there, and Chris Davis and Weeders, and all of a sudden you form this bond together. The wives were close, the families were close. They traveled, they stayed together, and just sitting there. TJ McFarland was there. Okay, Scott Coolbaugh, the hitting coach, was there. Just to sit there and a lot of the support people that got let go with the new general manager, they all came back because the way the players treated them, and everybody was pulling on a rope, and it really made me feel good just to look around and watch them interact with each other again because it was a special group. But it can be done. We were talking about the bullpen. There was Zach, and there was Brock, and there's Jim Johnson, and there's Darren O'Day and Tommy Hunter. By the way, Tommy Hunter should be on TV. The presentation speech at the luncheon he gave for Chris brought the house down.
That's awesome.
Okay, that was impressive. I was really, it was kind of sad that nobody there from the field staff or the front office, the upper, nobody was there for the luncheon. We always went to that. I don't know what that was about. I really don't want to hear that it was a trade deadline. There's always been a trade deadline.
Yeah,
that was strange.
I don't disagree with you. That is a little bit odd that that's the way that it worked out. I don't know what that says to us. But can I ask this generically, right? Like, because I don't know that there's a correct answer to this question, but when we talk about the trade deadline, there's this question of, hey, when you make these decisions, do you need to go address the team? Do you need to? And I don't know how you as a manager handled this, or if there is a right answer. There's a group of guys, I'm sure, in Baltimore right now that are deflated because Adley Rutschman was a very popular personality and a really popular guy. Like, do you want the GM? Do you want the owner to come talk to the team, explain it to them? Do you say, look, they've got nothing to do with what we're doing in here. I'll handle that. Like, what is the correct answer if there is one?
Well, every GM's different. Some people have the people skills and feel comfortable in a locker room. There's a lot of GMs that don't really feel comfortable in that environment. Let's say you didn't make any deal. I see some people chirping around. I noticed that Harper had said something. I remember walking in one time and go, yeah, we could have made that deal for the guy you wanted, but it was for you.
Mm-hmm.
It was for you. Or had you ever stopped to think that maybe we have so much confidence in you guys? You've got to think about the weight your words carry and the way it reflects on your teammates. When you say we need this, we got to be active, you're saying that we're not very good at that position in this locker room. That's something you can't let go on. And because, sometimes the best deals you make are the ones you don't make. All these prospect lists and number 15 and number 12 and number 17. Come on, Lucy.
I know. Yeah, I get it.
Who makes those lists?
Right.
Now, that was an independent group composed of boots on the ground scouts that know what they're looking at and don't have any political agenda and basically are just evaluating the talent on and off the field and put this together. It'd be a little more. But now it seems like a lot of the GMs want to see how many guys next to their name can be number 12, number 8, number 7, number 15. I'm not there. I want to talk to somebody that actually knows what they're looking at.
Well, and I measure a general manager on the success. That to me is the answer to the question.
What's
right?
end game? What's the end game? A lot of when you see 3 18-year-old guys come back, that means that you're not going to be held accountable for that sometimes for like 2 or 3 years before anybody goes, hey, what happened to that guy? Oh, wait, we got the number 8 prospect, a 19-year-old kid. Wait a minute, 3 years later, where is he?
Buck, what does it do to a clubhouse? Like, what does it do to a group of guys when they go through something like this? This is a team right now, the Orioles, that are still 2.5 games out of a playoff spot. And I'm not trying to oversell that. They're 4 games under 500, right? They are what they are. But they still presumably want to keep trying, this group. What does this do? What is the impact? What is the effect of it?
Well, a couple of them have been through it before, but the first time you go through it, for a lot of guys, the first time they really hits them between the eyes what a business it is. And, they kind of go, wow, And we tried to really stay away from that part of it as much as possible. I hated the cut days down in spring training because it brought such a sterile feeling to the workout and what we were trying to build. But, one thing you learn, Glenn, is the game moves on with or without you. You're a ship passing in the night and, they're going to mourn you and they're not going to dwell on it too long. It's a pretty cold world there. What have you done for me lately and how can you help me today? And, a lot of GMs don't feel comfortable coming down and having those conversations. They leave it up to the manager. And So it's having a feel for your locker room.
Right.
Do they need that? Do they not need it? You got a guy like Pete Alonso who's been through it countless times with every rumor known to man in New York, uh, and it's not the end of any movement of players. You just have to acquire waivers. This is not. People act like it's a trade deadline and nothing else is going to happen. I think some of their eligibility for the playoffs depends on it too. So there's still some player movement going to happen.
Buck Showalter is with us here on GCR. Buck, it feels like there is something more seismic here when it's like an Adley Rutschman, when it's someone who was a 1-1 overall pick, and that feels greater than just trading a player or a pending free agent. It feels like the impact of that is more significant. Did it shock you as much as it shocked a lot of people around baseball, the idea that this was the guy that was maybe a centerpiece that just for whatever reason it didn't work? Some of that he wasn't maybe quite as great. I don't know. It just feels shocking, I feel like, to a lot of people that someone like that is on the move.
Well, you kind of lose a little bit of your identity of who you are. We're this young. We didn't play well for a long period of time, so that in some cases, we could get these draft picks.
Yeah.
But you look at this. Okay, he's getting close to having to really pay him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the other part of the equation is you think you have a guy that's as good, if not better. Okay, and now I hope he can stay on the field and stay healthy. That's another part of the equation, that you have that honest talk. Is this a guy going to be a guy that's going to be able to stay on the field?
Basayo, obviously.
That was the thing about Matt Wieters. Wieters posted up.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Markakis posted up. Adam Jones posted up. Davis, Scope, Machado, Hardy. These guys posted up. They played. And that's a skill too, Glenn. That's a skill. And you better look at that game's played before you acquire a player, because that's something that usually doesn't change. That's one of the things I told Brandon Nimmo. I said, you got one thing left to keep you from getting a contract. You play 100 games a year.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work. Nobody's going to commit to you. And he solved that problem. He did.
It's interesting because that, I think, is part of the conversation about Adley at this point as well. I guess let me ask it on the flip side, right? Because I think there's a lot of people around the Red Sox that say, wow, this is a heck of a price to pay. You allude to questioning these prospect rankings, but 3 of the top 5 guys in your system for, an off-injured catcher. I am always the type that says, man, when you've got a chance, I'll always be in favor as a fan, as an analyst, of if it costs you too much, so be it. Go take the chance. I know Dan was talking recently about the trade for Andrew Miller. I'll never second guess that, right? Like, Andrew Miller was awesome.
I love the guy we gave up. When Dan told me who he gave up, I went, oh man, that hurts.
Yeah.
Andrew Miller, my biggest complaint about Miller is we didn't sign him.
Right.
We should have kept him.
Well, it was one of the worst off seasons I'll ever remember between Heat Cruz and Markakis. That was gutting.
Don't get me going.
Nah.
That hurt. But it's like it's about the Scooble trade. Don't be mad at the Dodgers. Just about everybody could have put a package together to get him. Just about everybody. Okay, so why are you mad at the Dodgers for doing what other people could have done? Now, I can tell you one thing: if the Dodgers win it all again, which they might, I can tell you one thing: the lockout potentially coming just got a lot of fuel. Just got a lot of fuel if they win again.
I wanted to talk to you about that, because I remember you bringing that up to me before the season began, that concept of if the Dodgers win it all. And I have felt a lot more of that in the aftermath of the Scooble deal. And I don't disagree with what you said. The package the Dodgers gave up, you're right. I think a lot of teams could have given that up. The argument would be that the Dodgers' advantages financially help them absorb risk greater than other teams can. Hey, if this one doesn't work out, if those players we traded go on to be really good, all good, we're just going to go sign someone else. We don't.
They'll get more prospects.
Correct.
Prospects, but okay, then fix the system. My point is that I think it's going to do a lot for the owners' vision of what they want baseball to look like.
Yeah.
I think the players, they'd rather see Tampa Bay win than the Dodgers win. Okay, because I don't know, public sentiment after if and when the Dodgers win it all, is going to be, hey, this is not. We got to fix the system. It's the same thing with the NIL going on in college football. Everybody says we got to do something to fix the system. Well, then what is it?
Yeah,
What
no,
do you
no
do?
one has a solution. Correct.
I've never seen the owners this much together. I think I don't want to talk about
You know,
20. It's painful.
Buck, this is an interesting conversation because I'm starting to sense what you're starting to sense is I don't know that fans are pro owner in any way, right? And like I think a lot of fans would say we think the owners might even be colluding to try to pull this off. We don't like the owners.
Yeah, I heard that conspiracy theory that they let this trade happen so that it would set up their point better. I heard that one.
I mean, I think that fans feel that way, but at the same time, I think that the result that you're talking about, I start to sense the more baseball fans I talk to that say, look, man, if it does cost time next year, we're not even going to be mad anymore because this just has to be fixed.
Right.
It feels like a consumer protection issue at this point.
Thing. I hope the players aren't underestimating how the fans actually feel about this issue. I think they're as concerned about the floor as they are the ceiling.
Well, and to me, I don't think I'm anti-player. I think I want the owners to spend the money. Like I want them, but I want it to be distributed in a more even way and create more competitive balance in that place. This is not me rooting for the owners to make more money. I don't want that. I want every city to wake up and feel like they have life and opportunity going into every season and excitement and not thinking about tanking. I that's what I'm looking for in this process. I don't know. Can it be done? Is it possible that this can work out, or is it going to be such a fight for the players to say, sorry, we just don't care about that?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see where the union, how much they stay together on this. I know in '94 and '95, worst time in baseball. I just wish somebody before they pull the plug on season next year, if they do, talks to people from that '94 strike. It was awful. It wasn't bad. It was awful. And it was '94. And it took us about 3/4 of the season, almost the playoffs against Seattle, to get the fan base back.
Right, that one-game playoff, yeah.
It took a long time to get them back.
And obviously Cal helped and, the home run chase and all. But I think your point is well taken. Would it be worse '94 because there was great stories and everybody thinks about the Expos and would it be worse then? Would it be maybe more palatable now because you wouldn't start the season and then call it off?
I don't know. This is uncharted territory for me, and I know fans hate even hearing it talked about. We had a lockout in '22 for a little while in spring training.
Yeah,
wasn't allowed to talk to the players. That was my first year at the Mets. That was what a way to start, not knowing anybody. When's Westberg come back? I think a lot of people have forgotten how much a part of that team he was. He's a good player.
I don't disagree with that, Buck. I think he provided them something they didn't have, which is just a natural hitter. I also think like the outfield is a bigger part of the conversation than we're talking about, which is like it's bleak. And I don't want to pile on Colton Cowser because he's incredibly likable, and when he plays well, his skills are the types of skills. He's an incredible defensive outfielder. And when he's hitting, but it's so rare that he's hitting that it really costs them to put him out there every day, and they just haven't been able to make up for it. I don't think people realize how bleak it is now and how few answers they seem to have in the outfield.
Yeah. Sometimes it can require some position change to get that taken care of. Is it easier? Where are your prospects? Where are your people that you think can play in a big league? I've said many times, one of the greatest things that Gene Michael with the Yankees, when I was with him, Gene admitted when he made a mistake. That was one of his greatest attributes. He goes, boys, we whiffed on that one. Let's move on. Let's don't compound the problem. And he also talked about identifying your suspects as opposed to your prospects. And then he would propaganda the suspects to trade them. Oh my gosh, this guy's great. I remember you'd get players from the Dodgers after seeing them in those bright white, red, and blue trim, and you get them and they go, man, they don't look as good in our uniform. So, to be able to pick and really be honest with yourself about who's really a prospect and who's really a player, and have people, boots on the ground, people in your minor leagues that know what they're looking at. I was lucky. I had Brady Anderson, I had BJ Surhoff, I had Mike Bordick, I had Scotty McGregor. We had Chris, we had guys traveling around and really knew what it looked like. And hey, I know what everybody's saying about this guy, but I don't think it factor is there. And I always remembered that. We used to talk about that. And by the way, Brady's going to be at the ballpark next 3 days.
That's right, with the Angels, yeah, including Grayson Rodriguez is pitching tonight, by the way, for the Angels against the Orioles. Could Jackson Holiday be the answer in the outfield, Buck?
I'm not close enough to it. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Maybe if you got somebody that you really like at second base, or you got somebody you really like at third base, maybe Westbrook could go out there. I don't know. You got to think out of the box sometimes. But if that's who you are and that's how you're going to put your club together, sometimes, Glenn, you just got to run them out there and close your eyes. You really do at some point, and go, okay, let them sink or fail. And you're also saying, okay, I'm going to sink or fail too. We weren't sure what John Scope was going to do. We weren't sure what Manny Machado was going to do. I can go on and on. At some point you got to go, hey, we're going. But you also have a safety net for them. You need to have a little bit of a safety net for them.
I'm going to ask you this question, Buck, and I'm going to acknowledge it's a leading question because I know that you're not going to be critical, and so I think that your opinion would be this is silly. So I want to get your perspective on it because I think I know what the answer is. There were Orioles fans yesterday who were bothered that in the midst of the trade deadline, Craig Albernaz was out hanging out at Ravens practice and taking pictures and seemingly having fun. And you can't get me to get worked up about these things, right? Like, this is baseball now. As you know all too well, managers' involvement in these types of decisions has never been lesser. Like, there's never been a day where they've had less involvement in the decisions that are made. And so I just don't care. God bless that Craig Albernaz is trying to get to know Baltimore and be around and those types of things. Can you offer any perspective about the role of a manager these days on trade deadline day and why it maybe doesn't matter that Craig Albernaz was hanging out at Ravens practice?
The only thing I'll say is, you always got to think about, I always harp with our guys about presentation. Does it really mean anything? No. Is it really, I would go out to the Ravens. I'd go out in the off-season. I'd go in the off-season. I used to love to sit in the end zone with Ozzie and talk about Alabama football and what they look for in players. There's a reason why Ozzie and John were so successful. They were on the same page, and the best organizations are connected at the hip with the manager.
What a thought.
And, that's the ones that when they each got a stake in it. But I think, we're in a world where the GMs and the front office just want the manager to manage I don't know. Sometimes they don't manage the game. They just, I guess, manage the clubhouse. But, that's the world that you live in. And, but, it's like Gene Michael and John Hart and different GMs used to talk about their presentation. Yeah, they'd like to go to a spring training game in a T-shirt and gym shorts, but they're the general manager of the Texas Rangers or the New York Yankees or the Baltimore Orioles, and they think about their presentation, how it's going to look to the fans. So that's the only thing I would say. You got to think about the arteries of your decisions to do things and how they reflect on other people.
Only because we haven't caught up in a couple of months. Before I let you go, I want to know, after seeing ABS, do you want more of it or less of it?
I have no problem with it. Let's get it right. Can you imagine watching college football or pro football and not having replay? It's almost part of the entertainment package.
We saw this, by the way, with Skip Schumacher the other day, where they were out of challenges. There was a terrible strike 3 call. I mean, not even close, and he still got ejected. And I just keep coming back to why can't we just get it right?
Well, the other one is, I believe that you should have the ability to have maybe a check swing call, whether you have 2, 3, only in the 9th inning. Fans hate when a game is decided by a check swing. And first of all, we'd have to decide what a check swing is and not,
Yeah,
but then can you imagine being able to actually correct those wrongs? Okay, where game ends. And the other thing is really taking the vindictiveness away from umpires. And these guys, I've heard some of them go, "Well, I'm leaving after this year. I'm leaving." Okay,
good, right?
Go ahead.
You're the wrong guy.
Yeah, these guys, especially the young guys coming up, they've got an idea. They're used to working with it and everything. And there's some veteran guys that are very good at it, have been exposed to what we already knew, how good they were.
Mm-hmm.
You ask people in the dugout, they'll tell you exactly who's a good ball strike guy.
Mhm.
And it's hard. It's really hard. They need the help now and then. But I'm all for it. I want to get everything right, especially in the playoffs. Orioles are only 2 games out in the loss column, and they're going to have to finish over 500 to get in the playoffs. But be careful about counting them out. They got a chance.
Are you hanging out at home for a little while? You back here?
I'm in Maryland till
Yeah.
the end of August. We come up here for a couple of months. We've got a little, what do they call them, farmettes? I don't know what they call it. But my son's up here with his family. And I talked to Brady last night. Of course, Brady never gets sick. He's actually got a cold. I've never seen him sick before.
Maybe the healthiest human being I've ever seen in my life, and we've all.
Well, he called me a couple times and said, "Man, this everyday coaching, 7 days a week, 7 months. Oh my gosh." Brady was great. I tell you, he was such a contributor. He was so blatantly honest and frank and blunt with the players, and they loved it. There was no sugarcoating. What an asset he was for us.
It was actually really cool talking to Trey after he played, and like he was getting kind of emotional talking about Brady's role and what Brady.
It was a big deal. Our off season, we didn't get surprised in spring training by something. We had a number of guys that would go stay with Brady on the West Coast at his house.
It's wild.
And work out for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And we knew, and there would be another group go in there, and they loved going there with Brady because they would work and they got better, and we were not surprised by things. He was a big cog for us.
Buck Showalter, we could do this for hours. I always love you, brother. Appreciate you taking the time. I'm gonna hit you up. I'd love to get together before you head out of town. All right.
All right, Glenn. I appreciate it. Hey, Griff, thanks for having me, you guys.
Thank you,
Buck.
sir. The great Buck Showalter, spending time with us.